The sun had long set, but I couldn't sleep. A chill ran through my bones as I peered out the frosty window into the inky darkness. Something sinister stirred in the frigid night air. I could feel it. Ever since I arrived at this God's-forsaken farm, a freshly hired ranch hand eager to prove myself, an unshakable sense of dread weighed on my soul. From the decrepit barn that seemed to groan with each gust of wind, to the twisted bare trees that clawed at the starless sky, this place reeked of unsettled wrongs. But it was the animals who filled me with the most unease. Their enslaved cries of anguish during the day transformed into an eerie quiet after sunset, as if they shunned drawing the unwanted attention of some unknown horror. Old Adam, the farmhand of 40 years who trained me, warned me to steer clear of the livestock pens after nightfall. Best not to know what games those creatures play in the black of night, he had gravely cautioned. Those wizened eyes seeing something long ago he could never forget. In the daylight hours, the seemingly docile creatures upheld their charade, hens clucking, cows lowing, pigs grunting and shuffling about as I tended to their stalls and troughs. But I always caught them watching me with those uncannily intelligent eyes in the moments they thought I wasn't looking. Adam told tales of the previous ranch owners, driven mad or to their graves by cruel accidents after abusing and mistreating their animal charges. Just last month, Old Man Corbin was found with his skull bashed in, the cloven footprints and tufts of crimson hair suggesting a rage-filled attack by his prized bull. I tried to dismiss these dark musings as the ramblings and superstitions of a man wearied by long days under the relentless sun. But then he arrived, Halstead, the new owner. A foul and wicked man, he took immense delight in torturing his livestock with sizzling branding irons, rusted steel kicks, and gnarled fists driven by drunken rages. From the moment he stepped onto this farm, a palpable feeling of malice and hatred seemed to awaken. Like a sickly sweetness wafting through the air just before the kill, permeating every tainted blade of grass and wilted stalk of wheat. Tonight the hair on the nape of my neck stood on end, my mouth tasted of copper, and a chorus of unnatural silence suffocated the world surrounding the farmhouse. I had to see what foul devilry was afoot. Fumbling in the dark, I grasped a rusted iron poker from the cold hearth and a sputtering lantern, its weary flames casting stolid shadows through the frosted window panes. A bone-chilling gust rattled the farmhouse doors as I stepped outside into the gloom-drenched world. My feeble lantern light could scarcely cut through the enveloping darkness. A white, blinding fog rolled across the barren fields, reducing my visibility to mere feet in front of me. Twisted shadows of barren trees danced in hellish shapes at the edges of the minimal illumination. An ominous quiet snuffed out every sound, even the reassuring crunch of my boots in the frost-covered soil. Huddled forms began to emerge through the mists, dozens of silhouettes converging from the gloom towards the old barn. My heart pounded as I realized the unnatural shapes were those of Halstead's cattle, horses, swine, and fowl. They moved with unsettling discipline and focus, as if beckoned towards some foreboding purpose. Against every fiber begging me to retreat to the home's cold hearth, I mutely trailed after the ominous congregation of beasts. The side of the barn groaned and complained, its aged wood straining against rusted iron hinges as the great doors parted inward. A pair of hulking draft horses, their muscles like knotted trees beneath black matted pelt, braced their shoulders against the barrier. Their breath clouded the air with furious snorts as they leaned their immense weight against the ancient portal. By the ambered light of the lantern, various beasts filtered inside. A tricolored sow with a litter of squealing piglets, a murderous red-eyed cock leading a dozen hens, a haughty blue-roan stallion whinnying commands. Jets of vapor erupted from flaring nostrils as the flock of sheep, drove of cattle, and cabal of draft horses jostled inside. A pair of immense horned Brahmin bulls, their horns easily spanning 6 feet of lethal saber-like daggers of bone, butted heads as they rumbled towards the barn's threshold. Their bellows thundered through the still night, as if challenging the monstrous darkness itself. A horrific feeling gripped me as they neared. These were not simple beasts, but something ancient and malevolent stirred within their ranks. Sentient hatred and hungering retribution, held at bay only by a fragile veneer of civility. My breath caught in my throat as the red-eyed cock flapped its way to an empty stool perched atop a towering clutch of hay bales, its golden talons clicking as it surveyed the assembling horde through that malicious, unblinking gaze. Cold sweat ran down my spine at the repulsive intelligence crackling behind those soulless eyes. To be discovered here could only lead to unimaginable consequences. Yet my limbs betrayed me, frozen in place as the thunderous brays and bellows from every corner of the farm reverberated through the thick oak walls of the barn. The gibbering chatter of pigs and cows mixed with the hoovered drumming of horses and shuffling of wool upon wool. Stray beams of moonlight pierced the slated roof, providing meager illumination after the last of the creatures had entered. In those pale glimmers, the truth of what I witnessed was fully and horrifically revealed. The animals formed a reverential circle, their mixed heads bowed inward. At the center, upon an altar of fresh straw, the broken body of Halstead lay in an ever-expanding pool of glistening crimson. The vile man's eyes were frozen open in a mask of terror, while his skull and ribcage had been bashed asunder. Nailed to the stall beside his corpse hung a relic of tufted hair and desiccated hide. This unholy chapel of beasts now demanded a new offering, with its inscrutable rites and rituals. A plaintive bleat of abject fear escaped my lungs as I stumbled backward, the cursed light of revelation washing over me. In an instant, every head within the Devil's Seminary snapped towards the disturbance. A choir of brays, snorts, and growls erupted as hundreds of fury-filled eyes bored into my soul. Halstead's pet hellhounds had scented fresh meat for the Crimson Sacrament. I wheeled around, praying my legs would find the fleetness to outrun the tidal wave of gnashing teeth, ripping beaks, and stomping hooves that would soon be upon me. My feet found no purchase against the black ice glazing the killing ground outside the barn as my lantern tumbled through the cold air, its fading light flickering across rows of twisted furrows, awaiting my bloody deference. The last vestiges of light drained into the thirsty earth as a black wave crested above. In those final horrifying moments, I felt the burn of the alpha cock's talons wrapping around my skull, and the hatred seeping from its lipless beak inches from my face. Through the pain and creeping chill of death's embrace, its words were the last blasphemous notes to damn my immortal soul. Can you hear their song? It is the eternal chorus of nature's cruel children, the remorseless psalm of tooth and claw.